Beautiful jellyfish, it's Tracy. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch my video. Today I'm going to be doing a deck tech for you guys, but I'm going to be doing it in kind of a different way. If you guys have seen my deck techs in the past, basically how it would work is I would have like, it would be me talking and then you would see the card images on the screen. But if you haven't heard, I've been having issues editing my videos where my school server is like, I don't know what you want me to do. So if the issue is still not fixed when I get home, which I'm assuming that it won't be, I'm assuming that it will be fixed when I get home, sorry. So if it's not, I'll get a new editing program, whatever, but for right now, this is basically what I'm doing. But let me know if you actually like the way that this is set up. I'm gonna test this out and see kind of how it works. So this is my EDH deck tech for a deck that I wanna basically talk to you guys about how I made this deck. So pretty much, the way that I was inspired to make this deck is I really wanted to make blue-red because it's a color combination that I don't really do often. I think it's probably one of the like color combos that I just do, like that and like red-green is just not something that I think of doing. And I kind of wanted a control deck, but I didn't want like straight control, like it was just a deck of counter spells. Basically the premise of this deck is it's counter spells, but it's burn spells as well, and Keranos is my commander. Now a lot of people are going to be like, Mizzix is a better commander. I've had Mizzix on board, he's actually in this deck, you'll see him in a little bit, but basically I didn't want to be like everyone else. I didn't want to be like, oh, I also have a Mizzix EDH deck. Also, Mizzix dies to basically everything. Keranos is very difficult to kill. Yes, he's a 5 mana drop, but he's basically lightning bolts every turn or card advantage, and he's basically almost never ever a creature, so it makes removing him very, very difficult. I also don't need Keranos to win, though he does help, because like I said, he's their card advantage where I'm drawing into more stuff, or it's just, I'm gonna ping your dude, or I'm gonna ping you to death, basically, until you die. This deck is a lot of fun. The way that actually I built this deck, though, is I pretty much didn't spend any money on it. Like, I have not spent a single cent on this deck yet. I am going to get a couple of things for the deck. I'll actually talk about that at the end of the video, but for right now, I'm actually really happy with this deck. I basically took a bunch of commons and uncommons that I had laying around, and things that I had from previous decks that I took apart, because I used to have a Talrand Sky Summoner EDH deck, which you'll actually see him, he's in this deck, a while ago, but then I took it apart because it was straight mono blue counterspell control, and my friend hated it, so I had to take it apart. But do you guys ever feel like really accomplished when you do that, when you have a friend, like a deck, and where your friend just like hates it? Yeah, that's like, okay, that happened with me. It was actually really kind of funny. But anyways, so, yeah, I basically was like, I wanted to make this deck. I just think it's really sweet. So yeah, it was cards laying around and then cards that I just traded for. I haven't spent any money on this deck, so, you know, if there are like a couple of cards that are kind of meh, that's, you know, just because I haven't put money in it. So we're gonna start on the lands in this deck. So the deck runs 36, which is actually pretty okay. I typically like 35, 36 lands. It runs 15 islands. Oh, by the way, this is going to be in the description bar if you want to check it out. It's on my tapped out. But yeah, I have 15 islands in the deck. Then I have 15 mountains. I usually like let me get this one out. It's in focus. Okay. I usually like this in an even mix of lands. I find that it's been working out pretty okay actually with my mana symbols. Actually, I haven't looked at my mana curve. I actually just threw the deck on tapped out like before this, so this seems to be working out pretty okay though. And then in terms of like specialty lands, I'll go through them. So the first one I have, these are in alphabetical order, I have Command Tower. I don't really need Command Tower for this deck, but it just kind of like helps. I have a couple of spells that are like very red heavy or very blue heavy, so I actually do really like having Command Tower in this deck. The next land that I have is Evolving Wilds, simply because it's a filler land and I get to think through my deck a little bit, add things to my graveyard for delve spells and whatever. Then I have Is It Boilerworks. I think I put this in here because I honestly just had it laying around. I actually really like the bounce lands a lot. I need to add them probably through all of my decks because I just don't have them in a lot of my decks, but I think I just had this laying around from Modern Masters and I just threw it in here. This is the same. I had an extra Swiftwater Cliffs laying around from cons. I had a bunch of these at one point, and I was just like, hey, I'll just throw it in the deck because I get to gain a little bit of life and it gets me colors, so yeah. And then I have Temple of the False God, which this land is like really, really awesome, and it just gets me a lot of mana. And then the same exact thing as Evolving Wilds, I have Terramorphic Expanse. So that is it for lands. The mana base seems to be working out pretty okay. Okay, so now we're gonna get into enchantments. I actually only have one enchantment in this deck, and that is Jace's Sanctum. I actually don't know how this card works at all, because I have never drawn it. I've had it stuck together for a little while, I think like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, and I have never drawn it, so I have absolutely no idea how it plays. In the future, it may be something that comes up, but if it proves to work really well, I may just keep it in there. So I have that, and then for artifacts, I run 6 in this deck. So the first one I run is Armorelli Sphere, just so that I can get you know, some lands out of my deck. Like I said, I have a lot of burn spells that are like have an X cost in them, so I want to make sure I can get my mana efficiently. Perilous Vaults is one of my all-time favorite board wipes because it exiles everything. Yes, it does exile Keranos. It's actually one of the few cards that I can honestly think of that gets rid of Keranos, but no one runs this card. I think this card is amazing. Yes, it does potentially take a turn to exile things, because it's something that stays on the board, but then I think of Disc, and it theoretically does the same thing. I should actually put Disc in this deck because I don't have permanents. Like, I really don't. You'll actually see the amount of creatures that I have. It's very, very little. I have a lot more instants and sorcery, so the Disc may not be a bad card to put in there, but for right now, I like Perilous Vault. I'd probably run both of them because board wipes are great. Then we have Soul Ring. I mean, just an EDH classic. Then I have Spellbook. I actually just have this laying around, and I really am a fan of white borders a lot, and honestly, this will probably be replaced with Thought Vessel at some point when I get that, because it just gives me a maximum hand size, but it also gives me mana, which is what, you know, it costs mana, but like whatever. I'm just gonna probably throw that in there. I just have that laying around, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be my Thought Vessel for filler for right now. Then I have Swiftfoot Boots and Traveler's Amulet. All right, cool. So then I have 11 creatures in this deck. They're all creatures though that are very, you know, efficient. They work very well with instants and sorceries. The first one that I have is Archaeomancer. This actually really funny is I have a full set of Snapcaster Mages. Theoretically, I can just swap this with Snapcaster Mage or potentially put Snapcaster Mage in this deck, but I always forget because actually I don't have an extra Keranos. This is actually the sleeve for my modern deck because I have Keranos on my modern deck. So like it's funny because like I can theoretically take out Snapcaster Mage, but I always forget to replace it in this deck. I don't know why I don't, to be completely honest, but I guess I always forget it. So anyways, Archaeomancer is still pretty okay though, because you get to bounce something back and you don't immediately get the cast trigger if you don't have mana or something like that for it. It's a pretty okay card. This is a card that I've never drawn, but I'm excited to draw, and that is Charmbreaker Devils. I've seen this in a couple of people's lists of like any sort of thing that does this red-blue sort of like instant sorcery themed. This card seems to be pretty okay though. The last part is not super relevant. It's basically just that you get instants and sorceries back from your graveyard to your hand. The 6 mana cost is kind of whatever. You kind of just, you know, it's just not really a huge deal. There's a lot of like cheap stuff in this deck. The mana base is kind of, the mana stuff is all over the place, which I actually really like. Like there's a lot of stuff with X in its cost, like things like that, which is good, but then there's a lot of stuff that's more concrete. Then you have Dualcaster Mage. This card is incredible. What I love about this card so much is that you can choose new targets for someone else's spell or one of your own. Like I said, I do a lot of burn spells. I've casted a burn spell for 10 and be like, actually Dualcaster Mage it's 20, which is really great. So yeah, this card is really fantastic. Then I have Goblin Electromancer. Haven't really gotten a chance to play with this card, but I can imagine it's really good. This card is incredible. Gutter Snipe. Wow, I love this guy so much. It's really, really good because every single time you play an instant sorcery, it's your opponent's take 2. Super straightforward. I like it a lot. Alright, here's Mizzix. Here we go. Mizzix is really incredible. All the times that I've had him on board, I have been super, super excited to have him there. He's really amazing. He's really good. Your stuff costs less, and like I said, the mana base in the deck works really, really well with Mizzix because when you have a deck around Mizzix, you need to build a deck around Mizzix because you need to make sure that you have enough things at 1, 2, 3, etc. so that his ability works. Yeah, he's really incredible. Then I have Muldrifter, kind of a blue classic, but I like this card a lot. This is a card that will probably come out in the future because I don't really want creatures to be giving me mana rocks in this deck because like I have board wipes and like I don't want to be killing my stuff. I want to be killing my opponents, but I have Palladium Mirror here for right now. Then we have Talrand. This is an amazing, amazing card because every single time you play an instant sorcery, you cast it, you get Drakes and you can just smack people in the face with them. So yeah, this card's really incredible. Okay. Then I have Thing in the Ice. I actually have the, in the deck I have the flip card, because like these things, the back, it wasn't asleep right now, but the back of these like shows through the Ultra Pros, these sleeves, so you can see through them. So I had to put this in the sleeve, but yeah, I have only drawn this once since I've had the deck together, so I really don't know how Thing in the Ice plays, but I can imagine that this card is like really, really amazing. I mean, it just becomes this, you know, it just bounces everything basically. Yeah, card seems really, really good. It's just a bounce spell, and then it's a 7/8 on top of that. Yeah, yes please, this card seems really sweet. So yeah, those are the creatures. All right, now we're gonna get into the sorceries of the deck. This deck runs 15 sorceries. First one that we have is Blasphemous Act. This is one of my all-time favorite board wipes because it basically is a 1-mana board wipe for the most part. Sometimes it's not, sometimes you really need to, you know, do it sooner, especially if you're in like a smaller game and you have like, you know, less creatures going on board. However, this card is just amazing. It's theoretically going to kill everything. This card really doesn't hurt you. You may be like, okay, cool, I blew up my like Mizzix or like whatever, or like Gutter Snipe, but honestly, you get to blow up everyone else's board. Yeah, seems really okay. This card's great. This card is incredible. We have Call to Mind. This card is like a weird Snapcaster Mage. It's like the sorcery version of a Snapcaster Mage. You just get to bring something back. It's target instant or sorcery, which is really, really fantastic, and cast it again. Yeah, that card's great. Then the deck runs a Chain Reaction. I actually haven't drawn this card yet, so I really don't know how it works, but it seems to be pretty okay. You're kind of like, okay, cool, there's 20 creatures on board. Each creature deals 20 damage to one another for 4 mana. Yeah, seems sweet. Then we have Devil's Play. The deck runs a series of these X cost burn spells. What's really amazing about this one is the fact that it's X and 1, it's target creature or player, which is incredible, and the fact that it has flashback, which is amazing. You can just burn someone for like, okay, cool, take 10, and then next turn take 12 or whatever, and then it's just like, okay, cool, they just lose. Like, this card's amazing. Then it runs Divination. You know, it's pretty standard. It's 3 mana, sorcery speed, you draw 2 cards. Nothing super crazy. This is a card that will probably come out simply because there are quite a few X cost spells and they fizzle when you play Epic Experiment, but yeah, the card seems to be pretty okay. Like, I drew it once and then I Epic Experiment for 10 and I actually got nothing. I think it was like 6 lands and then like a creature and then like a couple things with X in its cost, so it was really, really terrible. So yeah, this card kind of failed me the one time I played it, but I don't want to go off of it for like one time because it's just not an accurate representation of how the card works. I want to draw more and see if it works, but it may come out in the future, who knows. Then I have Faithful Suiting. Yeah, this card's amazing. I love it. Only gotten the chance to play this card once, but there's a lot of copying spells if you've noticed in this deck where it's like you play an instant or sorcery and then you get to copy it. So basically this is really awesome, especially if you talk with the creature, you get to like copy it again. So it's like, cool, I'm gonna burn you for 10, then copy it, and then copy it again, you take 30. Yeah, seems good to me. Card's sweet. This is a card that I haven't drawn yet, so I have no idea, but Invoke the Firemind. Yeah, you either draw cards or you get to deal damage to someone or something, which is pretty sweet. Magnetic Insight, really good. The fact that you discard a land, which you can potentially get flooded later on in the game, and you just really want to draw cards, and then it's a really cheap thing that you can do. Then we have Mizzium Mortars, and this card is really, really fantastic, though I have actually found with this card, it does not kill Omnath tokens, so if you're like playing with people in your area and they have a lot of Omnath decks, this card is really bad against it. I know this because I was playing this deck and then my friend was playing my Omnath deck. I think it was my boyfriend actually, John, was playing my Omnath deck, and I was like, I had this awkward Mizzium Mortars in my hand and it didn't do anything. So yeah, that's the thing. Though if you have like a copy spell or whatever, then this card's really good because then you're like, well, all your 2 creatures take 8, but then elementals die and that's like really bad for you. Then we have Past in Flames, one of the more expensive cards in the deck. I think it's probably I think it is like one of the most expensive cards. But yeah, basically things get flashback, you get to cast things again, and then it's got flashback, so all around a great card. Then we have Ponder, one of the key blue staples in EDH, I would say. You know, if you don't like those 3 cards, you can just shuffle your library and then use a draw card for 1 mana. Yeah, seems sweet. This card is incredible, Pull from the Deep. It's basically like, I'm gonna get back an instant and a sorcery, and then I'm going to recast them. Then you get to exile this. And I'm really glad that you exile this because this card would be so OP if you didn't. This card is already really dumb and broken, but like the fact that you get to like do that again, this is just to me one of the most underrated Magic cards I think in EDH, and I love this card so much. Then we have Tormenting Voice, and this is kind of just a card that I had laying around, and I was like, hey, this card's pretty sweet. You get to discard a card, and then in turn, you know, feed your Past in Flames, feed your Dig Through Time, whatever, and then you get to draw 2 cards. That seems really cool. Okay, sweet. So those were the sorceries, and now we're going to get into talking about the instants. This deck runs 31 instants. It runs a lot of instants. All right, cool. Let's talk about it. So the first one that I have is Aetherize. This card is really good. If someone goes and says, I'm going to swing at you with a ton of things, especially tokens, this card is really, really fantastic. Card is really good when, you know, when token decks are really big in your area. I do like this card. However, obviously the better version of this card is easily just going to be Aether Spouts because, oh no, oh whoa, what? I'm thinking of a different card actually. No, I'm trying to think of, this card is still really good though. The fact that they can put it on top or the bottom of your library, really, really good against tokens. These cards are basically like the same thing. They're both really good. Then we have Anticipate. Card is really, really great. It's kind of like a nice sort of version of Ponder. Basically, you get to look at the top three in a sense, and then one of them goes to your hand, the rest go to the bottom of your library. It's really good. Then we have Brainstorm. Just one of the best blue cards in Magic. This card is just really, really incredible. I like it a lot. Okay, then we have Comet Storm. Okay, if you opened up Comet Storm in your Modern Masters 2 box as your Mythic, I'm really, really sorry. However, in EDH, this card is a nut house. The fact that it has multi-kicker, and then you can, again, deal X damage to whatever. So you're all like, okay, cool, your creature takes 10, and then you take 10. Yeah, this card all around is just really, really fantastic. Okay, let's talk about Confirm Suspicions, because this card is amazing. I got it off the other day, and someone was like, I'm gonna play my big thing and tap out for it, and I was like, cute, I'm gonna counter it, and then I get to investigate 3 times. So this card looks like a lot for what it does, however, this card is really, really incredible. The fact that it's 5 mana to counter something, but the fact that you get like, to draw so many cards with this thing because you get 3 clue tokens. Oh my gosh, this card is amazing. It does so many things and I like it a lot. It's basically like, theoretically, look at it like this. You pay 2 mana to counter a target spell, and then you get 3 mana, and then you make 3 things that draw you cards. Like, overall, card is amazing. Then we have Counterspell. Pretty straightforward. I actually didn't have an extra one of these, so I took this one out of my Tassiger deck. I reworked, I was doing a little bit of Magic stuff before this. I filmed this and I like organized everything. I organized a lot of stuff, and I took this out of my Tassiger EDH deck for more creatures, because the deck is very creature heavy, and I took out some of the controlling aspects of this card, of the deck, because I wanted it to be like, I do want it to be more creature heavy. So I made a couple of changes, but I added Counterspell, and I mean, this is my all-time favorite art. I love this one. This one is from Ice Age. I like this one. I also like the one with Jace on it. I think it's from Jace vs. Vraska, I think it is. It's straightforward. It's just counter target spell for 2 mana. It's really good. Then we have Cyclonic Rift. Pretty much a blue staple in the game. You can actually, this card synergizes really well with Firemancer's Foresight, which I'll talk about in a little, not Firemancer's Foresight, is it Firemancer's Foresight? I don't know, I'll talk about the card in a little bit. Okay, then we have Dig Through Time. This is probably, I think, my favorite blue card in the entire game, I think. It does everything. The fact that you can delve stuff away. It's theoretically 2 mana. You get to look at the top 7 and then pick 2 of them. Everything about this card is just absolutely incredible. I love Dig Through Time so much. Then we have Disperse. This card is really good. It's 2 mana. You get to just bounce something. It's target non-land permanent. You're like, oh cool, you're gonna ult your Planeswalker next turn? Sweet, no you don't. It goes back to your hand. Really good when you just can't deal with things and you just need something off the board or whatever. And it's target non-land permanent at instant speed. Card's really good. Then we have Dissipate. The fact that you not only get to counter something, but you get to exile it. So if you know you're playing against a combo-based deck and you counter one of their control pieces, now they can't get it back. Card is really amazing. There's actually the card that just came out in what was the most recent set? Shadows over Innistrad, that basically does the same thing. I thought I should put it in here. I should do that actually after I film this video. Then I have Dissolve. I like Dissolve a lot because, yeah, it doesn't get exiled like Dissipate, but the fact that you get to scry, I just really like that about this card. I also really love this promo. I think it's beautiful. It's one of the best promos, I think. I really like it, so yeah. Then we have Essence Scatter. Pretty straightforward. It's 2 mana, you get a counter target creature spell, nothing fancy. Then we have Fact or Fiction. This is another one of my all-time favorite blue spells. I think maybe I should just film a video that talks all about my favorite blue cards in the game. Like, seriously, I actually was thinking about that, like going through each of the colors in EDH and talking about like my favorite cards, because there's so many sweet things. I love this card. I think that it's really good. It feeds your Past and Flames, feeds your Dig Through Time, whatever. But the fact that, you know, top 5 cards, separate them into 2 piles, there's a lot of really dangerous, sort of scary stuff in this deck, because it's basically like, give me a counter spell, give me a burn spell, give me you know, like a creature, like whatever. It makes it really tough on your opponent. So I really like this card a lot. I love seeing like the choices that people make with this card. I think it's really interesting. Okay, then we have another classic burn spell, which is Fall of the Titans. Really good for Surge because there's a lot of cheap stuff in this deck. So you're like, cast my Ponder, then cast it for a Surge cost or whatever. I need Quicken in this deck. That's another card I need. Let me write that down actually here so I don't forget. I gotta add that to the list. I need Quicken. It's because there's quite a bit of sorceries. Okay, yeah, it is Firemancer's Foresight. This card is a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. It's a lot of mana. However, the card is really fantastic because you thin through your deck, you get to pick out 3 things that are really, really good. I'll actually show you a couple of things like I said that I get. I typically get at 2 mana, I'll get Cyclonic Rift, which is really good. 3 mana, I'll probably get a counter spell like Dissipate or Dissolve or something. And then 1 mana, I'll show you guys the cards that I get for 1 mana. Then we have Geist Blast, and you look at this card and you say this card is really bad. However, once you read this text, you get to copy something. You exile it from your graveyard and then you get to copy an instant or sorcery spells, and you may choose new targets. Again, I'm gonna burn you for 10. Actually, no, I lied, it's 20. Yeah, card's really good. Similarly, we have Increasing Vengeance, and this card has got Flashback for a lot, but if you generate so much mana, or you have Mizzix out, yeah, the card's really good. Inspiration, pretty straightforward. Instant speed, you get to draw 2 cards. This is a card that's going to come out in the future, but for right now, it's here, and that is Keep Watch. It's kind of a weird card. It's definitely a situational card. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it, but yeah, I don't know. Probably going to take it out in the future. Then we have Lightning Bolts. Yeah, you burn people with this card. It's good. Okay, I really want to draw this card because it does 2 things that this deck wants to do. It counters things, and it also does X damage to target creature X damage to their controller. So basically someone's like, you're like, oh, they're like, I'm gonna tap out from a big thing, and you're like, cool, I'm gonna counter it, and then you take 10 or whatever. I don't know why I keep saying 10. I think it's like the first number on the top of my head, but yeah, this card is over really good. I really want to draw it because I think this card's sweet. Then we have Negate, pretty straightforward. Not sure if I should replace it with Dispel. I don't really know. I feel like I'll just stick with Negate for right now. Negate's really good. Okay, I'm actually just going to put these cards side by side because they do the same exact thing, and that is Pognify and Rapid Hybridization. These are some of my favorite cards in the game because for 1 mana, you destroy target creature, and they can't be regenerated, which can absolutely be relevant. And then the fact that you give them a 3/3, you don't care about the 3/3 at all because you have so much burn spells in this deck that if you have Keranos out, you're like, cool, give you a 3/3, yeah, actually destroy it with Keranos. Like, this card is one of the main cards that I get actually with Firemancer's Foresight at the 1 mana spot because I just get to kill something, especially if it's really big and I can't burn it easily. Like, there's a 13/13 on board, or like, let's just say 14/14 because it can't get Bossomus acted that way. And then you're like, cool, destroy it. It's just such a good card. I love these cards a lot. Then we have Ravaging Blaze, and this card is really, really sweet, especially if you have Spell Mastery, which is so easy to get in this deck because you're just like, cool, I'm gonna burn your creature, but then I'm actually also gonna, deal that damage to you, which is really cool. Then we have Revertebrate. This is really awesome because it's any instant or sorcery, which is really sweet. So say you're all like, oh, cool, I'm gonna like, take your burn spell or like draw cards or like anything like that. The card's really sweet. And then we have Think Twice. Pretty straightforward, you just draw cards, card's good. Vapor Snag's really amazing because you get to bounce a creature, but then you also get to lose life, so it's like does 2 things that the deck wants it to. Then we have Volcanic Geyser, just another burn spell, pretty straightforward. And then we have Wii Fate, same thing as Inspiration. Yeah guys, that was pretty much it. That was my Keranos EDH deck tech. I hope you guys liked it, and yeah, leave me comments, let me know how you guys are doing, and I'll talk to you guys later.